Everyone thought this meeting would be about Japan receiving money for any harm done. But Japan wanted to help with Korea's problem. That was good luck. Once everyone from Korea got over their surprise, they were all happy except for one person. President Go looked carefully at President Matsumoto, and asked, "Are you saying we should work together to fight the ants?" "Yes, that is right. We know Japan has excellent hunters, but it is too risky to attack Jeju Island straight on." President Go explained that there were now hundreds more ants than when Korea tried to get rid of them 2 years ago. President Matsumoto smiled a little. "It's always risky to enter enemy lands without a plan." One of the Korean leaders who liked the idea asked, "Do you have a good plan?" "I do." Everyone looked at President Matsumoto, but he waited a moment before explaining. Of course, he told someone what he needed, and papers with all the information already figured out were given to each of the people from Korea. "These papers have everything we've learned about these ants." The Korean group looked through the papers while he kept talking. "These ants are as strong as experienced hunters, but they do have one problem: they don't live very long. Ants only live for about a year. That means if we get rid of the queen ant, all the other ants on Jeju Island will naturally die within a year." This was correct. The Korean leaders looked at the detailed reports. Destroying the queen ant seemed like a better plan than trying to eliminate thousands of magical creatures coming from a very powerful portal. But President Go looked worried. He knew something others didn't. Getting rid of the queen ant would be just as hard as destroying all the worker ants. President Matsumoto chuckled and dismissed President Go's worry. "Yes, you need to get past the worker ants to reach the queen." President Go was surprised by President Matsumoto's calm manner. What was he planning? President Matsumoto thought for a moment. But what if all the ants came out of the hive for a while? The queen ant lived in the very back of the cave. Had there ever been a time when all the worker ants left the queen and her eggs without anyone watching them? President Go and the other Koreans looked unsure until President Matsumoto spoke again. "Yes. It happened exactly 3 times. 3 times. But how did Japan find out?" The answer was a big surprise. Every time Korean hunters came to Jeju Island, the ants left their caves to meet them 3 times in total. President Go squeezed his hands into fists on his knees. Japan had been watching the hunters in Korea face dangerous creatures in difficult battles. People understood why Japan didn't jump in to help, but it felt wrong that they were studying what happened in Korea, and then sharing those findings with the Korean people. A very powerful hunter had died in the 3rd attack, and many others had also lost their lives. President Go had witnessed their deaths himself. His hands shook with fury. What was that? Ryuji, known as Japan's strongest hunter, showed a bit of his power when President Go became upset. It was a signal do something wrong, and Ryuji would react. Jinshul, who was there to protect President Go, quickly moved to his side. "Mr. President, I am okay now," President Go told Jinshul, and the other man quietly moved back. Even though Japan might not be happy about this, if their research was correct, this was a chance to defeat the magical creatures. "I need to focus on what's best for everyone, and not let my own feelings interfere." President Go controlled his anger and stayed calm. With the nervousness calming down, President Matsumoto explained his plan. "Our hunters from Japan will handle that job. They would split the strongest Japanese hunters into teams and attack Jeju Island from many different sides. All the ant creatures would fight these teams, leaving only the queen ant alone in her nest. Then Korea's best hunters can defeat the queen. The Korean hunters would arrive by helicopter, quickly eliminate the queen, and then leave the same way." The room quickly filled with people talking and sharing ideas. The detailed plan from Japan really excited everyone from Korea. "If we follow their plan, don't you think we have a good chance of getting Jeju Island back? It looks like Japan is finally acting now that they are in trouble too. This is what we've been waiting for. Let's work with the Japanese hunters to take control of Jeju Island again." President Go didn't say much during the talk. He was quietly thinking about President Matsumoto's plan. It could actually work. Japan had 21 hunters with the highest rank, but Korea only had 8. Only 6 people could help, because the president had trouble moving around, and another person had stopped working. 6 people aren't enough to keep many thousands of ants busy. They would need help from the Japanese hunters. They could form 4 groups of around 5 hunters each, and that would give the Korean hunters more time. The big question was whether the strongest hunters in Korea could defeat the queen, a very powerful monster from a dangerous dungeon. Could they actually do it? Just then, President Go thought of Jin Woo-sung. What if Jin Woo, who had defeated a strong monster all by himself, teamed up with the other strongest hunters? President Go's heart beat faster and faster. They couldn't wait any longer. The monster ants were becoming more powerful very quickly. No one knew how long it would take for all the soldiers to be able to fly. It could be 10 years, 5 years, or even next year. They needed to get rid of the ants before that happened, even if it meant getting help from another country. First they needed to understand what Japan wanted in exchange for their assistance. President Go asked right away. President Matsumoto smiled kindly. We want half of the special stones after all the ants are gone in a year. That was the whole request. President Go tilted his head. Is that it? The people from the Korean government looked worried about his question. If that's all they wanted, they thought, we should just say yes politely. Why was everyone so upset? What would happen if they decided to change their plans? He had worked in business before, and that made him think everyone was trying to trick him. They all looked angrily at President Go, blaming him for something, so he had to agree with them. The Korean group talked quickly, and no one said they disagreed with the idea. Finally, Japan's plan was approved by everyone. After the meeting finished, President Matsumoto, who was smiling, shook President Go's hand. The success of both our countries depends on this important task. Let's work together and try our best. Back in his hotel room, President Matsumoto put a cigarette in his mouth. Ryuji used a lighter to light it for him. You did a great job today, sir. You did all the work, Goto. You're welcome. There's no need to be modest. Did you notice the look on President Go's face? President Matsumoto smiled. It only lasted a second, but President Go was very angry. President Matsumoto could still smile even when facing the anger of the strongest hunter in South Korea, because Ryuji Goto, a fantastic fighter from Japan and his trusted helper, was standing with him. President Matsumoto chuckled when he remembered President Go's face. It's tough being the one everyone expects to lose, and having to ask for help from someone you don't like. Ryuji laughed a little, just as President Matsumoto thought. Korea accepted the help Japan offered. Everything was going as planned. Korea is just the first step, President Matsumoto said. Hunters are now the strongest people and the new leaders. I plan to build a new kingdom using the power given to Japan. He looked at Ryuji. I think you will be the next ruler. As the person second in command to President Matsumoto, Ryuji would eventually take over the kingdom from the current ruler. Ryuji really looked up to his boss. President Matsumoto suddenly remembered something. Oh, that's right. He put out his cigarette. Do we have any information on the new strongest hunter from Korea? It seems like no one here knows much about him. I see. They knew everything about all the best hunters in Korea, except for this one man. They knew almost nothing about the new rank hunter. This was a problem because unexpected things could cause trouble. Matsumoto had a plan, and he didn't like anything that could mess it up. Usually one person wouldn't be a worry, but there were 5 hunters in the world who were incredibly powerful. Even other rank hunters weren't strong enough to beat them. These hunters were called the best of the best because each one was as strong as the army of a whole country. They had all successfully completed a very difficult dungeon at least once. A hunter with that much power could cause problems for them, but it wasn't very likely. With so many people in the world, around 7 billion, the chance of this new hunter being that powerful was very small, less than 1 in a billion. Also, if Korea had a hunter with that much ability, everyone would know about it. It didn't seem like President Matsumoto had anything to be concerned about. Being overly careful could also mess up my plans. President Matsumoto then got his phone. The Japanese hunter group was ready and waiting for instructions. South Korea is completely involved. Call all of the top-ranked hunters. As we talked about, President Go also contacted the South Korean hunters. The first thing he did was explain how serious the problem was. That's why he was trying to meet with them when... What? The news was a big surprise. You can't reach Hunter Sung. Jinwoo was the only one they couldn't get in touch with. We couldn't even find him, because his phone has been off for a few days. President Go was quiet for a moment. Then he gave the order, gather all the hunters, even if he isn't there, as quickly as possible. Yes, sir. The employee bowed and hurried off. President Go was shocked and deep in thought. Where could he be? President Go had a bad feeling about this. Like Essel said before, the raid had become much more difficult. The monsters guarding the castles on each floor were much stronger and had higher levels than the ones on the floors below. Jinwoo was having trouble using his growing intelligence because he was using up his energy so fast. After each fight, the amount of energy he had left changed a lot, going from quite a bit to very little. That meant many shadow soldiers were defeated, came back to life, and then were defeated again and again. But Jinwoo didn't just get to the 90th floor by chance. He practiced and improved his skills on every floor, working hard to become stronger, until he finally reached floor 9. As the powerful demons fought back, Jinwoo and his shadow soldiers fought even more strongly. A message appeared saying he had gained a level. Jinwoo had gotten permission to go to the 97th floor when he saw a mist coming from his body. He was sweating a lot because his powerful attacks made him hot. This showed how hard the fight had been. Jinwoo was happy he had won. As soon as she saw him, Aeneas ran out from where she was hiding, and went to Jinwoo. He was holding the permit tightly, and the castle behind them was burning. First the 5th strongest Ricardo clan, and now the 4th strongest Pathos clan. Ezil was too tired to be surprised anymore. If every enemy was as strong as this one, it would be impossible to defend against them, or even run away. Are all people as powerful as you? Ezil asked, sounding worried. Jinwoo thought for a moment, and then said, maybe just 2 of them. Gun-hee, Go and Hei-chin Sha. Jinwoo knew those 2 were much stronger than most of the top-ranked fighters. He didn't think the other strongest hunters like Yunho Baek, Jongan Choi, or Tao Furl as him. Jongan, who people often called the ultimate hunter, seemed stronger than he was, because he led the Hunters Guild, the best group of hunters in Korea. If you compared their power, he thought Haitian was a little stronger than Jongan. Even among the strongest hunters, there were different levels of strength. It was likely hard to measure how strong the top hunters were because their power was so great. Jinwoo couldn't help but smile. He wondered how he would feel about these powerful hunters once he was stronger himself. Would he see President Go's power differently, just like he had changed his opinion of President Baek after meeting him a second time? Jinwoo felt really excited, imagining how much stronger he would get. But first he needed to finish the demon's castle. There were only 4 floors left. He was so close to completing the dungeon. He turned to Ezil. You can go home now. Ezil had seemed sad after hearing about 2 other humans as strong as Jinwoo. But she looked up when Jinwoo said that. What? I can handle things from here on my own. Ezil had been a big help finding the nobles' castles, but he didn't need her help anymore. He was better at sensing things, and that helped him find the powerful demons easily. He didn't need her help anymore. Since her job was only to guide him, having her continue would just slow him down. Jinwoo explained this to her, so I'm not needed anymore. Ezil's face lost its color. He thought her reactions were amusing. Even at the end, Jinwoo tried not to smile because her expression was surprising again. He stood right in front of her. Ezil's eyes grew wide because he was so close. Was this how it would end for her too? Her heart pounded like a drum. Badump. Each beat sounded very loud. Ezil watched as Jinwoo slowly lifted his hand. As it came closer, she squeezed her eyes shut, afraid of what would happen. Jinwoo softly touched her shoulder. Ezil felt his warm hand and slowly opened her eyes. Jinwoo's face was very close to hers. He smiled as if he had been waiting for her to wake up. You did a good job. Thank you. That seemed like a good enough goodbye, so Jinwoo walked toward the teleportation circle. A message appeared. It said that floors 1 through 96 were now open. Then it asked where he wanted to go. When Jinwoo turned around, Ezil looked both surprised and a little sad. Jinwoo noticed that the monsters felt things like fear, worry, and sadness. It made him wonder if they were real creatures from another world, or just made up by something called the system. He wasn't sure yet, but he thought if he found enough clues, he might be able to figure out where the system came from. Suls was unsure, but then she called out to Jinwoo. Just then, Jinwoo looked up and spoke to the system. 90th floor, 90th, 90th, 92nd. Finally, Jinwoo got the item he needed to enter the Demon Monarch's area. ITM entry permit. How hard was it to get unknown type unknown? This permit lets you go to the 100th floor of the demon's castle. It could only be used on the special teleportation circle on the very top floor. He had gone through so much trouble to find it. Jinwoo looked at his stats one last time before going to the 100th floor, where a powerful demon was waiting. He was level 93, almost level 100. He could feel his strength growing. He was much stronger now. And his senses were sharper. He felt great. Perfect. Jinwoo contacted the shop. He refilled his energy and magical power and bought potions and extra bandages. He carefully wrapped bandages around his hands while holding his knife so he wouldn't drop them. He hadn't felt this worried in a long time. When the bandaging was finished, he began to warm up. Whoosh, shuff. Not bad. Slowly, Jinwoo started to increase his speed. His movements were quick and precise. Faster and faster he went. He moved so rapidly that he looked like a streak of light before stopping suddenly. Steam floated up from his shoulders. He had warmed up enough. He was ready. Wow, Jinwoo breathed in and out, then stepped onto the teleportation circle. As usual, the circle asked where he wanted to go, and Jinwoo answered with confidence. Level 100. Everything around him changed in an instant. Jinwoo looked around. There wasn't any fire now. The floors below had burned badly, and only smoke and ashes remained. He glanced upward and saw something falling from the sky. Was it snow? He held out his hand because the snowflakes didn't look quite right. It was strange. The snow didn't melt in his hand. When he looked closely, he saw it wasn't snow at all. It was ash. Ash was falling from the sky like snowflakes. Suddenly, a familiar electronic sound rang out. Beep. Jinwoo felt something was happening, and looked up. It was coming from above. The system quickly told him about the enemy. A message appeared. Balin, the demon monarch has detected someone new. A small black spot appeared far away in the sky. It came closer to the ground, and landed a good distance from where Jinwoo was standing. It looked like a lizard with wings. When it landed, the lizard flapped its large wings, and made a loud sound. Kree. Jinwoo then noticed a blue demon's face behind the lizard's head. A strong warrior wearing impressive armor was riding on the dragon. Above his head, 4 words were clearly visible. Balin the demon monarch. He gave off a lot of powerful energy. Jinwoo felt beads of sweat running down his forehead. Balin was a very powerful enemy, like the kind you'd find at the end of a big adventure. Then Jinwoo noticed something else. The dragon Balin was riding also had a name, Kaizel and the Wyvern. A wyvern was a type of winged creature, based on its name and how it looked. It didn't seem to be a demon. Wait, if it wasn't a demon, could that mean? He hadn't been able to capture any demons in this dungeon, so he'd stopped thinking about getting a helpful shadow creature from here. But a monster that could fly. I really want it. He would get its shadow no matter what. This was the first time Jinwoo wanted a shadow soldier so badly since Barca, the leader of the Ice Slayers. Just then, Balin raised his hand to the sky. A sound rang out. Balin the demon monarch used a skill called Army of Hell. Army of Hell. More and more warnings sounded. Demon soldiers have been summoned. Demon knights have been summoned. Demon generals have been summoned. With each warning, more demons appeared, forming an army around the boss. The number of demons seemed to be over 1,000. This was the moment. Jinwoo showed just how powerful his magic really was. As Balin moved his arm to point at Jinwoo, the large group of demons rushed forward. Thump, thump, thump. Their rush made the ground shake. Jinwoo smiled when he looked at the army coming toward him. I have an army too, he said quietly. My shadows. Right away, Jinwoo's shadow began to grow around him. He used his special ability, Monarch's Domain. When the enemy soldiers stepped into the area covered by his shadow, Jinwoo called out to his army. Assemble. His shadow soldiers rose up from the ground. Jinwoo could feel the enemies becoming scared. Ah! Rah! Grah! 2 very strong knights, Iron and Tank, quickly charged toward the enemy army. Crash! Grah! Grah! Krah! Grah! Krah! Ah! Krah! 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 Grah! Dozens of demons were knocked over by the 2 powerful knights. A large group of over 100 shadowy soldiers came after him. Leading them was Igris, the most skilled of them all. He jumped over Iron's head, landed perfectly, and began to defeat the demons using a sword in each hand. The demons screamed and cried out. He fought just like a top-level knight should. But Igris wasn't the only powerful knight. Jinwoo looked to the side. Fang had grown much bigger, and started walking forward like he was ready for a fight. Jinwoo was very happy watching him. Fang took a deep breath, and his chest got big. Jinwoo remembered the shadowy figures in front of Fang, so the Shadow Mage could use all his power to attack. The soldiers who quietly disappeared into the darkness moved, where Jinwoo pointed. Then whoosh. A huge burst of fire from Fang's mouth destroyed the demons. And it didn't end there. Whoosh! Fang turned his head from side to side, burning the demons alive. Those touched by Fang's fire didn't even have time to yell. Some of the dark soldiers were hit by the fire, but they could be rebuilt later. Yes! Jinwoo made a fist with excitement. A little more than 100 of his soldiers were able to defeat more than 10 times that number of enemies. The demon army was losing badly, but just then Balin, who hadn't done much fighting yet, stepped forward. He opened his mouth wide, and blue sparks could be seen inside. Gransala. The shadow soldiers were covered in a scary blue light. Krakawum. Was that lightning? Jinwoo's eyes grew wide with surprise.